Good morning, grade 10 students, and as well as to our avid listeners. You are listening to Z Radio, 88.5, Siguradong Lingaw, Siguradong Kuyaw. Once again, this is your teacher on air for grade 9 mathematics. Teacher Thelma Nanali from Nabunturan National Comprehensive High School. Be sure that you are listening attentively and follow all the directions of the activities. After our discussion for today, you are expected to achieve this objective. Translate into variation statement a relationship between two quantities given by A. A table of values, B. A mathematical equation, C. A graph, and vice versa. At this point, kindly get a pen and a notebook. Are you ready? Very good! At this moment, let us find out how deep is your knowledge about our today's topic. In your notebook, answer the following items that I will read by choosing the letter of the best answer. Listen carefully, for I will only read the question twice. Question number 1. Which is an example of direct variation? Again, which is an example of direct variation? A. xy equals 10, B. y equals 2 over c, C. y equals 5x, D. 2 over y equals x. Again, A. xy equals 10, B. y equals 2 over c, C. y equals 5x, D. 2 over y equals x. Ballpens up! The correct answer is letter C. Y equals 5x. Let us now proceed with number 2. The cost C varies directly as the number n of pencils is written as, again, the cost C varies directly as the number n of pencils is written as A. C equals Kn, B. K equals Cn, C. N equals K over C, D. C equals K over N. Again, A. C equals Kn, B. K equals Cn, C. N equals K over C, D. C equals K over N. Ballpens up! The correct answer is letter A. C equals Kn. Now for number 3. Y varies directly as x, and y equals 32 when x equals 4. Find the constant of variation. Again, y varies directly as x, and y equals 32 when x equals 4. Find the constant of variation. A. 8, B. 36, C. 28, D. 128. Again, A. 8, B. 36, C. 28, D. 128. Ballpens up! The correct answer is letter A, 8. Have you got all the correct answer? If yes, congratulations! If no, you have nothing to worry about, for this is just the start of our lesson. To interact with our discussion are Kristine, Jovelyn, Melanie, and Ralph. To understand what our lesson is all about, listen carefully as Jovelyn reads to you the situation. Jovelyn?
A local government organization launches a recycling campaign of waste materials to schools in order to raise students' awareness of environmental protection and the effects of climate change. Every kilogram of waste materials earns points that can be exchanged for school supplies and grocery items. Paper, which is the number one waste collected, earns 5 points for every kilo.
Did you listen carefully? Very good. Now I have questions for you. According to the situation, how many points can you earn in every kilo? That's right. You have 5 points in every kilo of waste. Now, what happens to the number of points when the number of kilograms of paper is doubled or tripled? Very good! The number of points will double if the number of kilograms doubled, and the number of points will triple as well if the number of kilograms tripled. How many kilograms of paper do you have to gather in order to raise 500 points? Correct! You need 100 kilograms of paper in order for you to raise 500 points. Now, if you were to write a mathematical statement that will relate the two quantities involved, which are the number of kilograms and the points, what would it be? I will leave it to you. You can check your answers later on. Now, let us proceed to another situation. Melanie?
Using a bicycle, Jericho travels a distance of 10 kilometers per hour on a steep road. So these are the distance he traveled at a particular length of time. In 1 hour, he traveled 10 kilometers. In 2 hours, he traveled 20 kilometers. In 3 hours, he traveled 30 kilometers. In 4 hours, he traveled 40 kilometers, and in 5 hours, he traveled 50 kilometers.
Observe the given data. What happens to the distance as the length of time increases? That's right! As the length of time increases, the distance also increases. Using the pattern, how many kilometers would he have traveled in 8.5 hours? Correct! It would be 85 kilometers. How will you be able to find the distance without the aid of the table? Correct! You can find the distance by using an equation. Do you have an idea now of what our lesson is all about? Alright, our lesson for today is all about direct variation. Kristine, when can we say that there is a direct variation?
There is a direct variation whenever a situation produces pairs of numbers in which their ratio is constant.
If you happen to encounter the following statements: y varies directly as x, y is directly proportional to x, and y is proportional to x. Always remember that they can be translated mathematically as y equals kx, where k is the constant of variation. What can you say about this, Ralph?
For two quantities, x and y, an increase in x causes an increase in y as well. Similarly, a decrease in x causes a decrease in y.
Alright, we will have more of this when we come back. So don't go away!
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
I'm back! So let us now continue to understand further the direct variation. Let us go back to the situation given earlier. In the situation, Jericho travels a distance of 10 kilometers per hour. What do you think are the quantities that are involved? Excellent! It is the distance and the time. So, if you're going to make a mathematical statement, it can be written as the distance d varies directly as the time t, or the distance d is directly proportional to time t. And lastly, it can be stated as the distance d is proportional to time t. All of these statements can be written into a mathematical equation as d equals kt, where k is the constant of variation. Always remember, when we say constant of variation, it is the value of k and its value remains the same even though the values of the two quantities change. In our problem, the value of k is equal to 10. You can write the mathematical equation as d equals 10t. How did we arrive with the constant of variation, which is k equals 10? So in order to get the constant of variation, you need to have the values of the two quantities, which are the distance and the time. If you already have the value, you can now use the mathematical equation for direct variation, which is y equals kx. Identify your dependent variable and substitute it to y, and identify also the independent variable and substitute it in place of x. In our problem, distance is our dependent variable and time is our independent variable. So if you substitute it into our equation, you will have 10 equals k quantity 1. To simplify, that would be 10 equals k, or k equals 10. If you already have the value of k, you can also solve for the other values of the other two quantities, provided that you have one of the values of the quantity. Example, if k equals 10, how far does Jericho travel after 2 hours? First, identify the dependent and independent variables. Then substitute the values in the equation y equals kx. Since our dependent variable is the distance, so let y remain and substitute only the value of k and x, or our independent variable. The equation becomes y equals quantity 10 and quantity 2. Multiply 10 and 2. After that, you'll get the value of y, which is 20. To further understand direct variation, let us make a table of values. In your notebook, make a table with 5 columns and 2 rows. The first row will be the time, and the second row will be the distance. Write 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the first row. This will represent the time when Jericho traveled, and then write 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 on the second row to represent the distance traveled by Jericho in every hour. Now, observe the given data. What happened when the time increased by 1 hour? That's right! The distance traveled by Jericho increased 10 kilometers consistently. So now, what do we have to remember, Job?
We always have to remember that a table of values shows direct variation if the value of each quantity has equal differences as one of the quantity increase or decrease.
How about a graph? When can we say that the graph shows direct variation? Okay, in your notebook, make a Cartesian plane. Write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the x-axis to represent the time, while on the y-axis, write 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 to represent the distance. Plot the following points: quantity 1 and 10, quantity 2 and 20, quantity 3 and 30, quantity 4 and 40, and quantity 5 and 50, and connect all the points. What have you observed? Very good! A direct variation produces a straight line when plotted. Is it clear now, students? Now, get your pen and notebook for an activity. Listen carefully, for I will only read the question twice. Direction. Write yes if the following is in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship. If not, write no. Number 1. Y equals 2x plus 3. Again, number 1. Y equals 2x plus 3. Number 1, is it in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship? Very good! Number 1 is no. Number 2, y equals 3x. Again, number 2, y equals 3x. Is it in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship? Very good! Number 2 is yes. Number 3, y equals 5x. Again, number 3, y equals 5x. Is it in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship? Very good! Number 3 is yes. Number 4, y equals x squared minus 4. Again, number 4, y equals x squared minus 4. Is it in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship? Very good! Number 4 is no. Number 5, y equals 4x squared. Again, number 5, y equals 4x squared. Is it in the form y equals kx and shows a direct relationship? Very good! Number 5 is no. Did you get it all right? Very good! Let's have another activity. Again, listen carefully, for I will only read the statement twice. Write an equation for the following statement. Number 1. The fare F of a passenger varies directly as the distance D of his destination. Again, number 1, the fare F of a passenger varies directly as the distance D of his destination. Number 2, the cost C of fish varies directly as its weight W in kilograms. Again, number 2, the cost C of fish varies directly as its weight W in kilograms. Number 3, the area A of a triangle is proportional to its height h. Again, number 3, the area A of a triangle is proportional to its height h. Number 4, the weight W of an object is directly proportional to its mass m. Again, number 4, the weight W of an object is directly proportional to its mass m. Number 5, the distance D traveled by a car varies directly as its speed s. Again, number 5, the distance D traveled by a car varies directly as its speed s. Let's check. For number 1, the correct answer is F equals KD. For number 2, the correct answer is C equals KW. For number 3, the correct answer is A equals KH. For number 4, the correct answer is W equals KM. And for number 5, the correct answer is D equals KS. Let us proceed now with our last activity. I will dictate the values of X and Y in the table. All you need to do is to write direct if the table of values expresses direct variation. Otherwise, write not direct. So listen carefully and write the values in your notebook for you to analyze. Are you ready? Number 1. The values of X are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the values of Y are negative 3, negative 6, negative 9, and negative 12. What do you think does the table of values show? Melanie?
It is not direct variation since the value of X is increasing while the value of Y is decreasing.
Number 2. The values of X are 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the values of Y are 1, 2, 3, and 4. What do you think is the answer? Kristine?
Since both of the values of X and Y are increasing, therefore it is direct.
Last, number 3. The values of X are negative 15, 10, negative 20, and 25. And the values of Y, negative 3, 2, negative 4, and 5. Is it direct or not? Ralph?
Since the values of X and Y are either increasing or decreasing, and at the same time, the increase or decrease is not constant. Therefore, it is not direct variation.
Have you got it all correctly? Or are you still confused? If yes, you could still go back with your answers and analyze the items that you've got wrong. Let us summarize our lesson after the break, so don't go away!
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
I'm back! Before our discussion ends, always remember that there is direct variation whenever a situation produces pairs of numbers in which their ratio is constant. There are phrases that you need to remember for you to know if the statement implies direct variation. These commonly used phrases are varies directly, is directly proportional to, and is proportional to. Direct variation is translated mathematically as y equals kx. The constant of variation is always represented by the variable k. From the name of it, which is constant variation, it means that k has the same value even if you use different values of the quantities. In direct variation, the two quantities are usually represented by x and y. But you can also use other variables to represent the two quantities. In the equation of direct variation, which is y equals kx, an increase in x causes increase in y as well. Similarly, a decrease in x causes a decrease in y. In determining whether a table of values expresses a direct variation, always look for a pattern. Example, if the value of x is increasing, the value of y should also be increasing. Similarly, if the value of x is decreasing, the value of y should also be decreasing. Most importantly, the increase or decrease of the two quantities should have the same ratio. The graph can be determined that it shows direct variation if the points produces a straight line when connected. I hope you learned something from today's discussion. That's it for today. Once again, this is Teacher Thelma Nanali at your service. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye!
Radyo Z-eskwela Executive Committee, the Schools Division Superintendent, Eufemia T. Gamutin, Cecil 5. Assistant Schools Division Superintendent Dr. Romel R. Handayan, OIC Curriculum Implementation Division Chief Karina S. Frasco, School Governance and Operations Division Chief Dr. Ruben J. Riponte. Members: Cecilia Morales, Dr. Hilda A. Opeña, Dr. Arlene B. Lim, Dr. Eldecris B. Calzadora, Dr. Dexter A. Siquinia, Nohara O. Pinute, Noemi P. Canales, Dr. Grace D. Pontillas, Virgilito C. Pabrices, Juanito Lapiceros, Engineer Norberto S. Manlangi, Jomar M. Dumupoy, Bob Dalan S. Milabat, Medard T. Ampit, and Paz Eugenia Villusino. Technical Working Committee, Productions and Communications, Lorely E. Quijano, Given G. Hinampas, Judyland T. Yu, Donna D. T. Bolifer, Mary Rose N. Resma, Riwen Manuel, Irene Lea C. Manguhon, and Bessie Aya N. Banias. Social Media and Packaging Team, Christian and Hara L. Martesio, William R. Ranara, Joan T. Iscoton, Roberto S. Acusar Jr., May B. Istaniol, Richard H. Arellano, Glee L. S. Blanco, Ralph A. Tabanyag, Angelo Gutierrez Jr., and Jade Karen Araiz.